And we are back with another game. As stated in the last video, I am super duper sharp and definitely didn't fail to sleep all last night. So really on the ball today. 7 minutes, no same wall, that's important. We can see the card Juan here. Juan is of course a trash card because rares are bad, except for AA rares, which are kind of depressingly good. Um, I should actually, I don't know if I've ever said in a video why I have such opposition to rares. I know people love collecting and they give something worth collecting and they have these unique powers and that makes them much more interesting to collect. The reason I don't like rares is because I think Triple Triad is like a remarkably well balanced game where the targets on different levels, what are the highest number or the highest two numbers available, create beneficial plus walls. Good job, Vid. Yeah, he has 3 cards for the same corner, arguably 4. He chucks something in the opposite corner. I approve this move. He's probably not doing very well after it, but it also covers 8, 1, 2, 8, and 9. Gives you 5, 3, 8, 6 or 6, 3, 5, 8, and 8. So might have some interesting tools there. Okay. Um, but what it so if a level, say level 4, right, the two highest numbers are a 7 and a 6, a card cannot have two sevens. So there are cards with a 7 and a 6, there are cards with a 7 and some lower numbers, like 7, 4, 4, 4s, and there are cards with, there can be cards with multiple 6s. There are 6, 6, say it's level 3 and 4, so like all the 6, 6, 3, 2s are available if you want them. And that gives you targets. That means that the important gaps to have in your cards are gaps of 1. 1 is really important if you see a 7 and a 6. 0, so you can hit 7s and 7s or 6s and 6s. A gap meaning like if you have a 5 on your card, you want another card that is 0 away. That's a 0 gap, right? That gives you the potential to plus the high numbers. 1 away always is good. But then also to plus wall 7s and 6s, you want 3 gaps and 4 gaps. And this is why 7, 6, 3, 2s are so good, is because the 2 powers up the 6 and the 3 powers up the 6 and kind of powers up the 7 too. And 7, 6, 4, 1s work a little differently, but the 1 powers up the 4, the 4 powers up the 7. And there's little differences there, but you sort of have these targets. And what rares do is they break the promise that the level makes to you about what you're going to be fighting against. And they do so in a way where they overbalance in one direction and are very weak in the other directions. And it just changes the math of what you have to be able to set up against in a hand if you consider it a threat. I think it's a good thing that they're basically just like not very good cards, but by breaking the rules of the level, I think they break the sort of perfect way that Triple Triad comes together on so many different levels. Um, and then on level 10, they sort of go the other direction because they don't have higher levels to go to anymore. So they go for the AA rares. And I think AA rares are kind of too powerful because there is no other corner that can be comboed back with one card, essentially, from either side. And where its combos are so devastating because only A's facing it can ever be safe to it. And so I don't like how rares play on any level because they break up what I like about the levels. But I think there are people who, obviously I'm not a big fan of Elemental. There are people who want more chaos in their form of the game. And so I think for them, rares can be a much more interesting addition. While for me, they are this thing that makes it's sort of like you made the whole theory of it not work to insert a card that isn't good anyway. And then at level 10 and level 9 to a similar extent, you broke the whole theory of how things works to make a card that does something that cards shouldn't do, but suddenly it's too useful instead of not useful enough. And I had a lot of trouble in some tournament games when opponents would use AA rares back in the day. I think I was kind of approaching it wrong, and it ended up pushing me into running a lot of 8876s and 8866 types because I just did not want to die to an AA rare, and I was just running into them round after round. And if you happen to not have it covered, you're not dead. I was overestimating the danger, but it's really unpleasant to play. And my style is somewhat interactive, and so it's just a difficult kind of move for me to play against, I think, or at least was. My style is certainly quite different now than it used to be. But yeah, that is some attempt to verbalize my opposition to rares. No idea if I made sense. Not making much sense today. So it goes. How does Deli have for attacks on this? Well, his 1848 and 8 can get comboed two different ways. But his other, and his 6844, but his other captures, he has two captures in 8 that seem fairly secure. But he has quite little down power. So actually, I think 8128 might be a kind of disastrous capture. Because if Vid played in 9, suddenly his only capture, if say there's a 5 up, is A2A2, and that can get comboed by 6358. So Deli does actually have some down problems, and if we switch over to looking at his captures in 4, we can see he's pretty limited here. He has the 8282. He has the 1848, but that's 8 sticking out might make it a tough recapture in some lines where you don't want it to be. It's the 6844, but that also is the 8 facing out, and A2A2 is an 8 facing out, and these can all be kind of clunky in the games they produce. So all his captures are a little messy at the moment, but might come clean as the board opens up. I would expect him not to capture or play next to it immediately, but I don't know what I actually do expect. I don't think he can kind of get a grip on this card. Like there's not like setups in 5 that really let him start playing off it, and it doesn't seem obvious to me. Maybe there is something, I'm just not seeing it right now. It doesn't seem like there's obviously some setup in 1 or 9. One idea that comes to mind for me, especially given that Vid's hand is so down left, is just go in 3. And just go in 3 with like an 8 facing out you can recapture. Maybe Oil Boil, maybe 8128. But something in 3 that says, hey, you can't take this. I can lock this in. Like if you play 8128 and 3, maybe you can play Oil Boil in 6 if you need to. Go next to it without being comboable, though you're likely to just be able to go next to it otherwise. I have a recapture in 2. You don't have that capture. Your starter doesn't create serious problems for me, and I can hopefully create serious problems for you. And he does, in fact, go one of those 2 cards in 3, choosing Oil Boil. So yeah, this makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. And it's hard for Vid to go up. So I think there's an instinct to look at 5 first tier, say something like 5, 3, 8, 6, and 5, something that gives you 2. I think this move is quite probably losing. I think it, like, Vid's hand is so poor in the various structures, it's so hard for him to end up with sweepers. And Deli has so much choice about how to direct the game that if I made that move, I would expect to lose the game. I might not. Again, as I was saying all last video, not all of it, but as I was saying last video, I'm a very pessimistic calculator. But I would expect to lose the game with 5, 3, 8, 6, and 5. I'm not going to see every line. I'm not evaluating every line here, but I would just expect to lose the game. So where might we go and not just expect to be dead? Because I think this is a really, I think this is a bad spot. I think this is a good move from Deli and a really uncomfortable spot to be in for Vid. If you play something like 2, 5, 8, 7, and 1, you don't set up in 2, but you do give yourself something in 4. I think that kind of move can appeal as well, but I think it's also bad. I think it's quite bad. I think basically all of Deli's cards play well after that, and your cards don't. Yeah, this is, I think, a very dangerous spot. One move that comes to mind that might be better is something with an 8 to the right and 9. because Deli has a down weakness, when you sort of go 9 with an 8 to the right, say, I don't know, 1668, you're saying I want to go in 6 next because that would lock in 9. So Deli is likely to block 6 himself, say with 8128. And then you can land, and this shows maybe you don't want to play 1668 because then you can land something in 8 and suddenly Deli has limited downs, but you're going to need play against his downs. And it's hard to keep all the cards that do so. But maybe if you use 5386 in 9, 5386 exactly in 9, then when Deli goes something in 6 and you go 6358 in 8, if Deli plays 8282 in 5, you have 1668 to cover it. And Deli's only capture in 4 is 6844, and you also have 1668 to cover that. Sorry, you have 6385 to cover that, I think. Um, because you have set up a same with the 5 facing up. I guess you could, or no, you play 5386 in 9 and you play 6385 in 8, and that sets up 1668 to have the same in 5. Sorry, I got confused on my line. As I said, I'm not at all sharp today. My brain is gonzo. So I could see something like exactly 5368 and 9. But what I think is basically going to happen here is this is a really dangerous position where Vid cannot calculate to the end of the game in a productive manner. And it's even really hard to identify a main line to calculate to the end of the game. So he has to go on kind of positional understanding and instinct. He can't go on like, I have figured it out. He has to go on, I found something that gives me enough play. And my idea of going in 9 is because it makes the threat in 6, it can force the action. I am trying to calculate my way out of this problem because that is what I try to do. And so my guess is 5, 3, 6, 8, and 9. But I think how most players would try to solve this is some kind of look for ideas and find something that creates some play somewhere. And I hope he doesn't go in 5 because I don't trust 5. But there's a fair chance there's a whole bunch of ties. I just think they're all going to look pretty similar. And this will be a kind of can Vid's instincts get him to survive this game? And I think this is very, very dangerous. But, you know, Deli has survived a bunch of really unpleasant hands this matchup, even one with a very unpleasant hand. And I think Vid has faced some unpleasant hands too, but not as many. So we'll see if he can pull off a really, really impressive save, or if this ends up being the decider. I like how I ruled out that he could win this game. If Vid wins this game, I will eat someone's hat. But I evaluate this position as extremely dangerous. And I'm really tempted to go see a 5-3-8-6 ties. So I'm going to start typing the cards in, but I'm not going to check yet because we're far too early in the game to go asking the solver. Okay, I put in Deli's hand, looks correct. Apparently I can't type anymore. It's all coming apart. Okay, we don't open the solver. I just went to open it, but I'm not going to. We're going to let at least the next move happen. Okay, he goes 6. In a way, this is the same idea. Often going next to a card and going in the corner one further down just lead to the same structures because the opponent is likely to fill in whichever square you didn't. And this is saying I can go in 6 and I have set up against you going in 9. And this might be a much cleaner way than my version. Like, it's very possible this is just the good way and my version was the dumb way. If Deli goes 9, Vid can capture it if it has an 8 to the left. And if it doesn't, he can choose between capturing it in 8 or going in 2. And if Deli goes in 2, at the very least, he does have safety in 9, and that will give him safety in 9 and 6. So there's a very good chance this is just a better version of what I was thinking. Which, if so, that still doesn't mean it ties, but it seems like there's a good chance. So if you're Deli here, you have a choice between 2, 9, and to bring it back to last game, maybe there's an option of 8. But for 8 to work, you really need some play in 5, and I don't see any way to create play in 5, so okay, probably not 8. So I would be between 2 and 9 here. I am going to flip open the solver. I am so curious about the last position. Like, how many ties did Vid have after the second move? And the solver says I am an absolute moron. The solver says, who is this buffoon? He claims to have pessimistic calculation. No, he has just nonsensically wrong calculation. Calling it pessimistic is far too generous. He thinks he's almost dead in a position where 2/3 of moves tie. 2/3 of Vid's moves tied on move 3. Now, my suspicion is that they are more dangerous than they looked, but 2/3 of his moves were ties. Did he play one of them? I don't know. I'm not looking over to see. Was my move a tie? We can probably check that without spoiling anything. My move was one of the 2/3 of moves that tied, but that's not like an impressive achievement. Yeah. Does this mean, I wonder if 8-1-2-8 and 3 was better, was higher pressure? No, lower. Deli picked the better move per usual. Wow. I guess Deli having so many like up, down, and side to side cards just isn't, the hand isn't as good as it looks like it should be. But I'm really surprised. I really thought this was going to be more dangerous. I would not have liked defending this position. I would have been really unhappy. But it seems I have substantially overvalued the danger. Curious. I think that is while we're just making videos about my weaknesses as a player. Weakness number 1: when lost, does not find sufficient ways to make more complexity in the position and give myself more chances to tie. Sorry, I just scraped my headphones along the table. That might have made a very obnoxious sound. 2, when in a promising position with not many moves left, does not make sure to check all possibilities for what is actually most dangerous to them, and will settle for something that is maybe not the most testing move and probably misses some wins that way. But another one, and this is all part and parcel to my general pessimism in a position. If I cannot find a clear line to calculate and I have to rely on my instincts, my instincts are good. I'm not saying my instincts are good, but I am unhappy. I do not want to be just going on instinct. I want to be going on instinct combined with calculation. And positions where there is sort of not clear calculation and you just have to like decide if you think a move works or not are positions I am very unhappy in. And that is one of the ways I am pessimistic. That's probably a weakness as well. Other than those 3 things, I'm obviously impeccable and perfect. We all know this. Yeah. I wonder what other people who've played with me a bunch would think my biggest weaknesses are. Those are the ones visible to me, but often, things about yourself are only visible to yourself. Deli's biggest weakness, of course, is not wanting to change hands in tournaments, letting himself be targeted, but that's not in play here, right? That's not something that there's much to work with. Incidentally, even though the solver says there were many ways to tie this, and let's assume that Vid has played one of them, still haven't checked that, still think it's a good hold because I thought this was a difficult position. Solver be damned. But this found clean ways to respond to the position, and I think cleaner ways than my idea did. Deli takes back in 2. All right, we're gonna check. Is Vid's move tying or losing? Vid's move is not just a tie. Deli only had 2 ties in response, and I'm going to cover up that so I can't look over and see what they were. Deli had 2 moves that tied. Now, in our thinking, we did come down to me and you as we were discussing this position, as we just did just now. You, the watcher of this video, suffering through my just terrible commentary, and me, the person giving that terrible commentary. We decided Deli probably just really had to go in 2 or 9. So the fact that there are 2 ties, maybe not that surprising, as long as they are moves in 2 or 9. And the moves in 9 felt pretty uncomfortable. So this seems like if you told me there are 2 ties or there's 1 tie, what's the move most likely to be that 1 tie? Doesn't it have to be 6 8 4 4 and 2? But Deli's hand is really clumsy here. Each card can kind of only do one thing. 8 1 2 8, and I think cards like that in general can play really poorly in the kind of structure we're going to be getting. A sort of L with an outlier card. I don't have a name for this structure, but if Vid goes in 1 or 9, there's sort of an L part of the structure, and then there's this disconnected card from the action. Pretty common structure. Maybe not really a structure, because normally we call things structures when they divide the board. Q, T, and Z are all structures because they divide the board into 2 pairs of 2. And other positions that do not chop up the board like that, we tend not to list as a structure. But it's one where I think 8 1 2 8 type cards play badly. Yeah. All right. Final bet. We're going to see. I think Deli's moving 2 is a tie. God, I'm so ruining the excitement here. Nah, let's leave it. We know this position, or I thought this position was dangerous for Vid. Then he played a move I liked, so I sort of went into, okay, we're headed for a tie. But now we do have the question of, did Deli play a good enough move to tie? Because Vid's move was good enough, it sort of flipped around the evaluation. And Vid has a bunch of things to check here. 2 5 8 7 and 1. Very plausibly good move. You keep your coverage of anything in 9, so it might be hard to find for Deli to find any square to play. There's, of course, going in 9 safely. That has to be checked. And it's conceivable there's moves in other squares, though I doubt it. I mean, there's certainly moves in other squares, but I doubt. I think those are the 2 that have a chance to be really high pressure or wins. I think 1 or 9. We gotta come up with names for the other common setups. I think a really common one is 1 2 3 4 7, which Smokes used to call the L, but everyone else meant the L is 1 2 3 4, right? The 2 lines in an L are not of equal length, but for Smokes they are. And but like the long L, I guess you could call it. I don't know. I don't know if people have called that one something. We're thinking of standard common positions after 5 moves. I think another one is the one we're likely to be getting here, which is in this case 1 2 say 1 2 3 6 7, or 2 3 6 7 9, depending on where Vid goes here. I just for simplicity, I'm going to call it 1 2 3 4 9. That's the sort of lowest number version of it. What else is pretty common? Oh, there's the X. The X doesn't quite divide the board into pairs, but the X and the cross obviously do split the cards up. And so we have names for the formations that split the final cards up so that they are not all touching each other. But there are a bunch of these other common setups. There's essentially things that come out of the L. There's 1 2 3 4 5, the sort of blob. There's 1 2 3 4 6, which I used to call the C. There's 1 2 3 4 7, long L maybe. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. And all these setups happen somewhat commonly. Not necessarily just out of the L, but out of a few things. Um, for instance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 often happens when you could go for a Q, but you'd rather just snag a card, and that's pretty common and a very important position. Oh god, brain's going. Sometimes you just feel it go like, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm sorry if these videos are just insufferable. I know I'm in bad shape. All right, we're gonna see. Deli did not play a losing move, unless I misclicked the button. Let's try again. Yeah. All right. Seems right. I'm curious what the other tie was. I'm gonna guess it was in 9, but it was in 1. Like I said, the solver finds an outrageous number of moves in 1 out of the 3, 6, 7 setup. There's just so many more ties there than I'd expect, and this would not have been the second square I'd look, but it was the second square with a tie. Okay. Seems like both players will probably hold this game, and seems like it was a pretty good game. My database. I should be putting games into the database. That's something useful I could do. I hope they don't keep playing. I gotta figure out what I can do today that is vaguely productive and not terrible. Which I guess this is, but I just feel like I'm doing a bad job. All right, that's important. Enough about me. I'm just chattering. All right, 6, 1, 7, 4, 8, 7, 7, 3, 5, 7, 3, 3, 6, 3, 8, 8, 2, 8, 6, 4, 4, 2, 8, 8, 5. I'm putting in the last game. It didn't make any sense what I was saying. It probably didn't. All right, and this game. Vid has gone in 4 because Vid will never make a normal move. So this game went 3, 3, 8, 2, and 7, 1, 8, 4, 8, and 3, which I really liked, but after 5, 3, 6, 8, it was Vid who was ahead. 6, 8, 4, 4, and 2 was very precise, and 1, 6, 6, 8, and 4. Oh, this is a point I'm sure I've made, but I want to make again. If a player makes a normal looking move and that normal looking move ties, that doesn't mean the position was easy to hold. After the fact, when you see the answer to a question, sometimes the answer will look really complex. You'll be like, oh, that's really hard. But oftentimes the answer will look simple, right? The answer will look like a straightforward move. However, what you don't do when you're looking and trying, what you do when you see the move that works is you start thinking, why does that one work? But the process of decision making is very different than that, because the process of decision making is finding a move that works among the sea of possible moves. Explaining a move in the aftermath is very different, because this is the one that works, what's going on with it. And that's very different thinking. A lot of explanatory thinking is not useful for actually getting better at decision making things, because the type of thinking we do when explaining, the type of way we talk about it, the way we describe it, the way we say what it does, and the way it seems more obvious, is to miss the temptation of a bunch of other moves and having to figure out how they work, prune them successfully. And so explanations of decisions can be useful, but oftentimes make the decision about something different than what it actually was. Because the choice for Deli, yes, 2 was the most normal move to make. But there were other plausible moves. There were other squares to check. And if you happened to get any of them wrong, unless you were on that weirdo move in 1, you were going to lose this game. So even if this is the most plausible move, even if you look at this move and go, of course, that makes sense. That's an easy move to make. In one sense, it's an easy move to make. But given that other moves did not hold, and given that this was not the only plausible seeming move, Now you might say there was nothing in 9 that was plausible, like 8282 was the only capture that wasn't comboed. That's kind of terrible. So maybe this one was pretty forced. But I do think there's kind of straightforward moves that we don't, and by we I probably just mean I, don't give enough credit to, because decision making is difficult. And when we look at a decision after the fact, we think about it in different terms than you have to think about it when you're making that decision. Now, you don't have to do this. You could keep in mind all the comparative cases, like was trying to do this, was looking at this, was trying to do that. But it's easy not to. And yeah. All right. Has Deli picked up a card? I feel like he's picked up a card. There should be 10 total cards, and 5 are on the board, and 4 are in hands. So that means he's picked up something. I don't remember what his hand was, so I guess we'll find out soon. Alright. Deli thinks he might be winning, that Vid went too tricky and might have thrown this. I haven't been looking at all, and I don't remember what Deli's last card is. I think it's 3638. Ah, so maybe Deli's intending 3638 and 5? Because if Vid combos back in 1, he's created a combo chain and Deli has 8. Yeah. Alright, let's see what Deli actually said. Because I just skimmed it. Yeah, 3638 and 5 goes up 8-2. We can combo in 1, but I have 8. Yeah, same thing. Okay. Interesting. So 3638 puts Deli up 6-4. No. It flips everything. Puts Deli up 8-2. Yeah, he's right. I can count. Yeah, that looks like a win. Think Deli has done it. I think did get too tricky for his own good, and Deli had a really nice sense for where the combos were. Just as I'd completely written this game off as like, yeah, they're both playing well. They both played really good moves at the start. This is just going to be a tie. Um, doesn't look like a tie. Because 2, 5, 8, 7, and 1 flips too much stuff. And 6 is safe. So Deli has now secured 3 and 6. And his 8-1-2-8 is gonna clean up. I think Deli has done it. Which is great news for me because it means there isn't another game. I would be happy, by the way, for both these players to win. I hope that's clear. I've really enjoyed watching Vid play. I usually do root for Deli, but like I really enjoyed both players here. And I think Deli has shown some tremendous defense this series, but I think Vid has brought a lot of creative fun to the series that is quite unique to Vid. And that led to highs and lows here, but more highs than lows. We will, of course, not be opening the solver at this point because that would remove all tension. And what if I'm just missing something? But it sure seems like that plus an 8 is decisive. And these are such easy combo chains to miss, where you set yourself up in a square, but they have already flipped one of the cards, and they can set up a chain such that when you play that square, you flip something you don't want to. The danger of playing on diagonals. It's tough. Vid won the game he won because on move 5, he looked for more. And now I think now I think it's over because he looked for more. The cup giveth and the cup taketh away, or whatever the phrase I'm looking for is. as I said, I'm gone. I should end this video. Uh, but we should congratulate Deli. This is Deli's 400 billionth major win, and yeah, I mean, if we go on the leaderboard, I'll go to the leaderboard. We can see what Deli's current stats are, and we can look at how they're going to change with this win. So should flip you over to the leaderboard. Yeah. So nope, that's not the page we wanted to be on. Most wins. Deli is already the leader by a solid margin. Winning another tournament will only exacerbate this lead. Most championships, Deli becomes the first player to reach 10. He is not only the all-time leader, but he is now, and by multiple titles, but he has broken a milestone that is pretty incredible. This is his 11th finals, breaking a tie with Turds for second. This is his 16th semifinals. He is now tied for first there. He has 28 icons, insane. He does have the most tournaments played, but also his championship rate is going to go up. He'll probably be somewhere around Yojimbo now. His finals rate is also very high, though a little lower. You'll notice his finals rate and championship rate are almost the same because he seems to win all his finals except that one that Turds beat him in. His semifinals rate a little lower. He gets better the further we get, I guess. His icon rate also very high. His win rate will keep going up. 20 plus games played list is better. He will break a tie with Sujiro and he will pass Kamikaze. He will move into 6th on the list. Keep in mind that every player above him played less time, and it is easier to have high win rates the less you play. Now, obviously, Deli's played a long time, but I mean, like, Seto and I both play like every other tournament when we're active. Yojimbo played in a very specific era, not outside it. Nightwish and Great Sephiroth had relatively short careers. Yeah, distinct tournaments won. He is still far and away the leader. That will continue. Achievement is a score that adds up 1,000 for each championship, 500 for a finals, 250 for a semis, 125 for a quarters, etc., etc. He's far and away leader there, and also very high per tournament. Yeah. His finals win rate is now back over 90%. And again, this is, I haven't put in the current tournament, so all these numbers are going up. In conclusion, congratulations to Deli. What another tremendous achievement. I'm gonna go crash. Won't be able to fall asleep yet, though. Just tough life.